are back! Okay, hello everybody. It's Alyssa. Welcome to, or welcome back to Knit One, Breathe Two podcast. I'm so excited to have a new channel and to kind of be rebooting my podcast. So for those of you who are either new or weren't aware, I did delete my old channel, which was under Mrs. Comet Hunter. And that is because I did have some students find my channel and my social media, which it doesn't bother me too much. I don't think I was, saying things that I shouldn't have been, that kind of thing, but I wasn't sure. And I had been doing it, I've been podcasting for 2 years so far. And, when you think back to the beginning, I have no idea what I was talking about. Times change, right? And not only that, I think what caused me the most, I wouldn't say worry, but let's just use that word so I don't have to find another one, was my blog that I've been writing at for years and years and years, probably a decade, is under the same name. So it was also under Mrs. Comet Hunter, which I've linked to from here and from Instagram and from Twitter. But that blog goes back 10 years. And there were some posts on there that now 10 years later, I don't really want out there. I may have been complaining about my job at the time, or about doing my PhD, or about kids or something. And I've changed a lot in 10 years. And so that blog didn't represent me fairly, I don't think, anymore. So I have now closed that blog. It's still available to me. Just gonna have some coffee here. I can still see it, but if anyone wants to see it now, they need to get approved by me. And what I'm gonna do, because I haven't written on it in a really, really long time, if I did, it was a post here and there to link to this podcast, right? Or to do a check-in kind of once a year kind of thing. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make my blog into a keepsake book for myself. Just because it was basically like a diary for me, like a journal for me for many, many years. So I do want to keep it for me, but I don't want it out there for everyone else anymore. That's not who I am now. That's not what I am. It was when I was a grad student, and kind of battling my mid-20s and going into my late 20s. So that's what I'm going to do with that. So I've decided then to reboot my podcast, which I'm really excited about, because I missed it. I really did. I've been watching Caroline of Off the Grid Needle Arts. I've noticed in her last couple podcasts, she's been really talking about the idea of doing a podcast for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else. And so I'm really going to take that to heart. It's really going to be just a check-in on my crafty progress. I am still going to be doing Make With Me videos, which is, by the way, that's what we're doing here. I should have said that at the beginning. Hello, welcome. This is a Make With Me video. I am working on my So Faded sweater. Look, oh my, it's almost, the body's almost done. Where's my marker? Where is it? It's got to be around here somewhere, I hope, because Yeah, so from this blue marker, I wanted to do 1 more inch before I started to do the ribbing. So I've done 1, 2, 3, actually just 3 rounds since then. So I'll probably do another, I think an inch for me is about 8 stitches. So I'll do another 5 and then I can start the ribbing on the body and then get to the sleeves. So yeah, I've made a lot of progress since the last time I did a make with me video, which of course I have since deleted. So I will be doing make with me videos in the middle of the month, usually around the 15th of the month-ish. And then at the end of the month, I'll be doing kind of a wrap up of what progress I've made on all of my projects. So what I've finished, how my projects are going, my plans for the next month, if anything's changing, anything that I bought, that kind of thing, and make along. So that's what I plan to do with the podcast. I really like the new logo that I made up. I really just wanted something easy, so I just did a Google search for free knitting ball clip art thing. I made sure it was free. I made sure that I could alter it because I don't want to infringe on any copyright. So that's all well and good. And then I created my new logo. And so I'm still going to be using Knit One Breathe Two as my podcast name because I think that really does identify me as a knitter. For those of you new here or those who have forgotten why I called it that is because when I started knitting, I was using it as a way to calm my nerves. And so really it is almost a meditative practice for me as well as for, you know, millions and millions of other people. So, but that's why I called my podcast Knit One Breathe Two, because usually at the end of my regular podcast, where I do my updates and such, I will share a technique that I like to use to calm my anxieties and to work through mental health issues that I have been battling for many years now. So that's the plan. My warm weather knit along is still a go. So if you're participating in that, you can post your finished object in the Ravelry group, which again, it's the same group that hasn't moved, that was not deleted. So under Knit One Breathe Two on Ravelry, you can find the threads there where we could chat about what we're making. And some people have been posting their finished objects. That runs until June 21st, I think I said. And that's anything you can wear in warm weather. So maybe you're making a light top, maybe a light shawl, a tank top, anything you want it to be, really, that you can wear in warm weather. I'm supposed to be working on the Tegna sweater, and I'll update that at the end of the month, but I'll tell you right now, it has 1 row in it. I've cast on and I've done the first knit row and that's it. Because I've been working on my So Faded mostly if I've been knitting, and then I've been working on cross stitch as well. So you'll see all the updates to all those projects at the end of the month here. So yes, so let's see, what should we talk about? So I do want to say, in terms of any changes to my podcast I might be making, I'm going to try to be more careful in what I talk about in terms of work. If I do have students who are finding me or other staff members who are finding me, I just want to make sure that I'm being careful about what I say, right? Although I can't think of anything negative or anything that could be construed in a bad way that I've talked about, but you never know. So I'm just gonna be fairly general in how I talk about work, if I do talk about work, and keep it at that for now. As for my kids, I also want to be a little more careful about including my kids in the podcast. I have 2 boys and they're fairly young, and I do want them to be able to make the decision for themselves how their electronic footprint gets made. And so I don't think they will be in many videos. If I do talk about them, it'll be more general as well. But there again, I think I was pretty careful about that. I don't know. That's why I needed to delete the videos, because I wasn't quite sure. And I think doing a reboot, it just gives me a new start and a fresh start. And I know I'm down to like 2 subscribers now. So if you have found me again, or you have found me for the very first time, please subscribe, because I did have, I think it was 130 subscribers or something, but please remember to hit that subscribe button so you can make sure that you're getting videos when I put them out. Isn't this a beautiful mug? One of my very best friends, we've known each other since grade 1. So since we were 6 and I just turned 40 in March, she sent this as part of a package for my birthday this year. Yeah, I still consider her one of my very best friends, even though we live across the country from each other and have lived very far away from each other for decades now. Am I that old that I can use the term decades when I describe time? I guess so. Yeah, so I miss her. Old friends are the best friends, aren't they? It's funny when we get together, it's like we could just pick up right off where we left, right? And it's quite amazing. So yeah, so it is mid-May right now. Today is May 14th, I believe. Yeah, because yesterday was the 13th, so it's the 14th. So May 14th, 2019. And I live in southwestern Ontario in a town called London, if you're not familiar with the area. It's about halfway between Detroit and Toronto. My husband and I, we kind of joke it's 2 hours away from everything good, right? It's 2 hours from Detroit, it's 2 hours from Toronto, it's a couple hours from Niagara Falls. But you know, the longer we live here, the more we like it. So that's where I am. It's kind of spring here. It's been a weird spring. I don't know if it's been like that where you are, if you're in the northern hemisphere. It hasn't gotten very warm yet, and sometimes by this time of year, it can be, you know, high 20 degrees Celsius. We do Celsius here in Canada. And it hasn't quite gotten there this year yet. We've had one really nice day. I think it was, 25 or so. But that's it. We've had one. Otherwise, it's been a lot of rain. It's been cold, cloudy. So it hasn't been really nice. But it hasn't been that bad either. It's not like we're getting snow still, or it being ridiculously cold we can't go outside and the kids can go outside. So that's okay. So it's not too bad, but it's not ideal, especially for gardening. I haven't even planted any flowers or our garden. We do some vegetables. Each year we kind of pick 2 or 3 things to grow. Of course, our daffodils and tulips, they're up and blooming, but we haven't planted any flowers yet because it's just so cold, or not warm enough, I should say. It's not cold, but it's not warm enough for planting things yet. So please let me know what is it like in your area of the world right now? Is it kind of as expected for your area at this time of year, or is it not? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? And what are you working on right now? So I told you I was working on my So Faded sweater by Andrea Maury. It's a very popular pattern. Many people have done it. I'm doing it in blues and greens, as you saw when I showed it. Here, I'll get to this marker and show you again. It's a lovely pattern. It's quite easy. The one thing that I haven't done, I've only made one sweater before. Well, one sweater for me, I should say. I've made baby sweaters before. But this is the first sweater that, for the collar, I will have to go and pick up stitches and then do the collar at the end. So I've never done that before. I've usually just cast on, done the ribbing, and then gone into the body. So we'll see how that goes. I don't love picking up stitches, so we'll see if I even do it. I might just leave it. So there's my fade. Isn't it beautiful? So I'm into my 4th color. You could do this sweater in any number of colors. And in the pattern, she teaches you how to do the math to figure out how long each section needs to be. Because each fading section is going to be the same length. And so for the length of sweater you want, you could figure out how long each section needs to be. So it's quite a nice pattern for that. But I love these colors. I'm loving them. And then the sleeves, it's a garter stitch sleeve. And when I split for the sleeve, that's what I finished. I did the fading before I split, and then when I split off for the sleeve, I went into my 2nd color, the blue there. So that's how I decided when to do my changing, just to make it easier when I get onto the sleeves. I know how long I need to knit with the blue for. You can look me up on Ravelry as well as Instagram using my name Planetologist. So that has changed. It used to be Mrs. Comet Hunter. Again, because that was associated with my old blog and some other old accounts that I have had, I've decided to get rid of that name. And because Mrs. Comet Hunter had nothing to do with crafting, so I wanted to get a new name that had to do with knitting. So Planetologist, and I'll put that on the screen below, and I'll also link in the box below to my Ravelry page. So if you're interested in any of the projects that I'm knitting, you can check it out on Ravelry and look at the details, what kind of yarn I'm using, any notes that I've made, that kind of thing. As far as other social media goes, I did get rid of my Mrs. Comet Hunter Twitter account, and that's again because I was using Mrs. Comet Hunter, and 2, I've had it for a really long time and I was not using it in the last year, so I have no idea what's on there. So I just, you know what? I just deleted it. I don't use it much. I use Twitter for my job. I am a high school teacher, as you may have guessed, for me talking about students and stuff. And I use it for education purposes. I connect with other educators. I post pictures of things that I'm doing in the classroom. I join into education chats so that we can talk about ideas for classrooms and stuff. And that is completely separate from all of my planetologist social media, as well as this podcast. And if you're not an educator, it's not a very exciting Twitter feed to follow. So I tend to keep that as a professional only Twitter account. And then I have a professional blog that if I have something longer than I want to write about, then I write it on my blog and link it to my Twitter account. Social media, right? It's pretty crazy. Do you remember? Okay, so Facebook, right? But before that was MySpace. How many people had a MySpace account? I had MySpace. So I had a MySpace, and then before that, I actually made my own blogs. Well, there was one before that, but it was through, I think it was either through Yahoo or through MSN somehow that I had a blog. It was really like you could just do text, you couldn't do anything else. Hear my cat Isaac meowing. I had that blog. Oh, what was it on? Because I had called it The New Girl in Town, because it was just after I had moved. I don't know if it was after I moved here or after I moved to Winnipeg, in which I also lived. Can't remember. And then before that, I had a blog that I coded, like I hard coded it in myself I just use HTML coding, and I created my own little web pages with the little buttons and stuff like that. And yeah, so I did that. That was Web 1.0. I did that on my own. So I've been blogging for many, many years. I probably started doing that in the early 2000 for sure. Probably by 2001, 2002, I was coding my own blogs. So I've been blogging for a really long time. So that's actually what made me start doing YouTube videos. I had been blogging for a really, really, really long time, and I was getting tired of it. And I was seeing people do knitting podcasts, and I thought, you know what, that might be the next step for me. And so it just seemed like the next natural step, because most of the things I was writing about on my blog were crafting related recently anyway. So I decided, hey, let's do a podcast. And so here I am. And what's kind of funny is now that my blog, I haven't been writing a blog for a long time. Now I have this, and I've gone back to journal writing with, pen and paper, which I like. There's nothing quite like paper, is there? Pen and paper. There's nothing quite like a really nice journal and a really nice pen. One of my Breathe 2 sections in my first incantation of this podcast, I talked about a journal that I found that's called One Line a Day, where it gives you a little tiny space about this big for every day of the year for 5 years. And I started that in January of this year, so January of 2019, and I really enjoy it because you only have to fill up, 3 lines, and you just write something that was memorable that day, or maybe not so memorable, right? And it'll be a nice little journal to to see how life changes over 5 years. Because I think the really neat thing about it is the way it's organized is, say today, May 14th, there's 5 little sections on the day of May 14th. So next year when I come back to that day, I'll get to see what I wrote this year. And so you get to, it's like this automatic time capsule almost. And I really like the idea. I know one of my subscribers from last podcast, she said she's been doing that for years and her mom got them for her. So that's really cool. Even when she was a kid, she's been doing that. I had never heard of that. So I happened across it in a bookstore one day. I thought it was a really cool idea. But apparently people have been doing this for a really long time. So that's very, very cool. Yeah, I love writing in, nice journal with a nice pen. I love the feel of a book in my hand. I do listen to audiobooks. I do have a Kindle that I read electronic books on, but there's nothing like the feel of a book, is there? Where do you stand on the book camp? Are you a person that really loves that feel of the book, or could you just not care less? Because some people are like, I don't care. They're happy to read an ebook or read a e-reader. For the longest time, I wouldn't get books from the library. I had to buy every book I read. But in the last couple years, I've got away from that. I feel like there's just no need. As you can see, this is just one bookcase, and we have 3 others just like this across. So this is the fireplace. So there's one here, there's another one on that side, and then 2 of the same size, and they're completely full with books. And I've just thought, you know what? I very rarely read a book twice. So it really does not make any sense for me to buy books anymore. So if I do buy a book, I either buy the electronic version or an audiobook. Otherwise, I get books from the library. Except maybe, every so often I'll buy a hard copy. There are certain types of books you want as a hard copy. But if I'm getting a novel or something, I don't get a hard copy. That being said, if I do read a book and I love it and I feel like I'll read it again, I'll go out and buy the paper version. Because I love books. I just love having bookshelves full of books. It's just so cozy. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. What do you think? How do you feel about the books? Do you have lots of books? I find knitters generally like other kind of hobbies, if you want to call them that, right? Knitters are generally into reading and other things that take time, or making food from scratch, playing board games, playing card games, and doing other crafts, right? I think a lot of knitters are multi-craftual, if you want to call it that. I also cross stitch. I do some sewing. I do want to sew more, especially my own clothing. I'm getting kind of sick of all the fast fashion. And not because the clothes aren't cute. I mean, God, aren't the clothes cute when you go to Old Navy or Joe Fresh or, Target, H&M? They have so many cute things, and it's so easy to find cute things for cheap, right? And that's what gets us, and that's what gets me anyway. And then what I end up doing is the clothes end up getting holes in them really quickly, and then you throw them out. So I'm really trying to rethink all that kind of stuff. Things, you know, should I be spending more money on clothes, on good quality clothes, or making my own good quality clothes and not replacing them as often? I don't know. Lots of things to think about, right? So I'm going to try to keep these Make With Me videos to about half an hour, and we're coming up on that time now. So I'm just going to get to this marker here. And then usually my regular podcasts, so the update podcasts, they're usually a little longer. Oh, my cat's just running around like a crazy cat. Even though he's 17, almost 17, he'll be 17 in July or something. So I hope you enjoyed being back with me and making along with me. Please tell me in the comments what you are making. I'm really excited to be back. I'm really happy to be back podcasting. So, before I see you again in another couple of weeks, I hope you get a lot of time to make and craft and to read and to do all the slow things you love to do. But don't forget to breathe too. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.